All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. I hope you guys are having a great week, whatever day it is for you. As always, it is Friday here on the show. So we're bringing that Good Friday energy to you guys. Today is a good day because we have Dawson Skorczewski with us. Got that last name.
Yeah.
Dawson is from Sioux Empire Home Buyers out there in South Dakota.
Yep. Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Yeah.
Dawson does flips. He does wholesales. So it should be a good episode. He did 600,000 at the age of 21. So if you guys are interested in the wholesale game, this is the episode to listen to. Dawson, thank you for showing up.
Oh, of course. Likewise. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. I told you before we get on here, we always like to hear stories. We like to hear how people got to where they are. It sounds like your real estate story is relatively fresh, so this should be a good one to jump into. Why don't you take us to the beginning and tell us how you got here?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I could go as deep as I wanted to here, but I'll keep it short enough so people don't get bored here. And so, with kind of the how I started, so I was going into college, about 18 years old, and I started. Okay, I have a couple months before I start school, and I played baseball, and so I was going to play college baseball at the time, and I had about a month or two, and I was like, okay, how can I make some extra money without getting a job? It just won't work with the time period to actually get hired by anybody. So I'm like, okay, let me start flipping couches. Came across flipping couches kind of in the Ryan Pineda world of things, right? I don't know if you've heard of that concept. So basically what I did was I would go on Facebook, and specifically the niche of sectional couches, as crazy as that sounds. I would go and grab them from people who were moving out, who were just getting new furniture or anything like that for free most of the time, because they were in the intention of, I just don't care about this. I'd rather just have somebody take it out of my house for free. I don't have to go to the dump or anything. Perfect. So I'd come by, take it, and I'd put it in my loving parents' garage, which they love that all the time. And so I would put them in my garage, and I grabbed maybe 1, 2, 3 at a time per weekend, and I would sell them for anywhere from $400 to $500. And so it was a pretty crazy niche. And so did pretty well for the first couple months. Did that, and then while I got into school, because I ended up going. Basically what happened there was I started doing couch flips virtually. So I was going to college about an hour and a half south of where I was from, but I had all the connections in town. And so I was doing it in class. I was on my phone on Facebook, and constantly I was never paying attention really, which I probably should have been. But so that's kind of my start with how I got started in the entrepreneurial world. I sold my first couch, and I'm like, wow, that was like crazy. I made $130. That was insane. Then I, fast forward a few months, I was like, this is great. I'm obsessed with this whole idea of how I want to scale something into making a lot of money kind of this way. Came across wholesaling real estate, right? A lot of kids my age nowadays, they come across it with the TikTok, the Instagram, and things like that. So I came across it kind of in the social media way, like a lot of kids my age, but started doing that. And essentially what I did right away was, so I was living in a dorm room at the time, and I'd use probably 1 or 2 hours a day where I was calling off a automatic dialer every day. And so eventually got my first deal, out of my dorm room, JV'd it with a guy in town here in Sioux Falls, another wholesaler that still do business with the guy today. But he was a very nice guy, was able to JV with me and got my first deal. And at that point I was hooked. So that's kind of the idea, because I wanted to so I did the couch flipping, and I'm like, how can I scale this bigger, where wholesaling is essentially the same idea, just a lot higher ticket. So that's kind of the story of how we got into it.
Nice, man. So
Yeah.
you got your first deal. It sounds like you were using a dialer. You did it yourself. So you were cold calling these deals.
Yep. So I first started obviously doing the hand dialing, and I chose cold calling because at the time I was like, well, here's the deal. I'm not a big fish. I'm going to catch these people hopefully at the right time. That's kind of what I had on my side, right? I can't do the pre-foreclosures because I'm not in town. It's going to be a lot harder to do that because you have to be more intimate with that side of things, and I don't have a lot of money. I had the couch money, but I was being very conservative with it. So I'm like, cold calling right now is my cheapest and best option I can go with. started hand dialing and quickly figured out that sometimes people don't answer the phone. So once you figure that out, you're like, okay, I need to figure out how we can do a lot more of these because dialing phone numbers and waiting for people to answer is just not. But with my 1 hour I had or 2 hours I had per day, it's just not going to get us anywhere. So it's when I kind of came across the dialer and started doing that, and that really maximized my time. So,
Yeah. So you were using something like Mojo Dialer or Batch Dialer or something like that?
yeah, I was using Badge Dialer at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what we've had our VAs use as Batch. I still haven't
Yep.
figured it out myself, but I know it does work and people do
Yeah.
tend to like it.
Yep.
Um, so you're using the dialer. How'd you get the lists?
So I would just pull them off of your average prop stream list. So I had enough, like I said, I had a decent amount of money saved up. So I invested that mostly into data, which I'm glad I did that now, looking back. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Hmm.
usually does. Wholesaling, I always tend to have people, when people ask how to get into real estate,
Right.
wholesaling is the first thing that tends to come to mind to people because it does. I
Right.
mean, nothing is free in real estate. I do want to
Of
stress that.
course.
It's whatever. If you guys ever watch something on social media and it says you can get into real estate with zero money, that is virtually never going to happen. You do need
Right.
to spend money, especially on marketing. There are things that you do need to spend money on, but you can get into it
Right.
very cheaply. And wholesaling is the one because you can spend your time calling
Right.
people. And
Exactly.
so these you spent, it sounds like you had a little bit of money, you spent it mostly on the data, finding
Hmm.
good lists to buy. What were you focused on when you were, in terms of the data, what were you focused on pulling?
For me, obviously, right away as a beginner, I mean, you're going to pull the absentee owners. You're going to pull, maybe, I mean, it was mostly absentee owners, at the time. But then, you dabble into the owner occupieds if they've owned it for long enough, and then, the probate list and stuff like that. That's also something to think about too. So,
Okay, cool. And you mentioned that this is a business that you originally got into because you wanted to scale it. Picking up a phone, dialing yourself is not scalable. You
no.
do have to go to the next step if you do want to make
Hmm.
a little bit more money. So, you did
Yeah.
600,000. Was that net income for wholesales at 21?
Yep. That was net with our company. So it's just me
Okay,
and one other business partner that we do it with. I basically handle all the marketing, acquisitions, and my other partner he manages all the flips that we have currently, and as well as dispoing deals at the moment. So.
very cool. So, take us
Mhm.
through your operations now. How are you guys getting your deals, and what do you do with them once you get them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we run a very lean operation, and we spend probably close to around 3,000 a month, which is very compared to what I've heard from other real estate investors is pretty lean.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, kind of how the marketing system funnels. And so I started out with the cold calling with the dialer, eventually scaled into hiring virtual assistants to then or to dial that all day. So I have two virtual assistants as well who cold call all day and have done very well for me. They've been with me ever since the first two I ever hired, and they're doing very well. So
Yeah, lucky you.
which is pretty lucky. Yeah. So it's I consider myself lucky on that part. But then went into that. So I'm like, okay, we have the outsourcing. I'm getting into the pre-foreclosure game and things like that. But I was like, how can I get inbound leads
Mm-hmm.
for cheaper, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a tough thing to ask, right? I mean, inbound leads can be very expensive. I mean, upwards to 500 to $1,000 a lead, depending on how competitive the area, right? And so that's when I came across organic SEO. So essentially, I don't know how familiar you are with organic SEO and other people who use it, but I know that's one of our biggest marketing sources, as crazy as it sounds, because we ranked our website pretty high. I did it myself just because I had more time than money, right? So went ahead and ranked our website ourselves that we pay less than $100 a month for on Carrot, and it's pretty much crushed ever since. We do a lot of deals with that. So that's one of our favorite marketing methods, probably my favorite of all time, just because the cost per lead is pennies on the dollar with the return. I mean, we'll probably do 25% of our 25, 30% of our revenue just from organic SEO. So that's our big one. Cold calling as well with VAs. As well as I mentioned pre-foreclosures, that's something that we've also done really good on, which is absolutely $0 for us. Obviously there's costs once you get down the road for title and stuff when you actually do close deals, but free to get that data because we did get in with a law office, the foreclosure attorneys that do most of the sheriff sales here in our couple counties that we live in. And so got in with them and got a list, basically an updated list that we have. that gives us pretty much a month head start for before it goes public. So we do have that as well. And also we do have other sources that we can, with court cases filings, that's a whole nother rabbit hole to get a hold of that data. But once you do have the ability to get data of people who are going into foreclosure before everyone else, it's a game changer. And I think on top of that too, to keep that in mind for especially anyone who's looking to maybe get into pre-foreclosures, it's not the same as getting a motivated seller off a cold call or website. Because these people who are in foreclosure, they're not necessarily motivated to sell. That's one thing you got to keep in mind, is because a lot of these people who go into pre-foreclosure, they're going to these people. I'll give you an all cash offer. You can sell your property super fast. Can make it easy. They don't want to. There's a reason they're that deep in the hole. And so you have to approach them with the idea of like, here's the deal. I'm not here. Like, obviously we buy properties, right? But here's the deal. I don't, whatever you want. If you want to stay in the property, let's figure out any way we can keep you in the property. And I mean, as crazy as it sounds, more times than not, they can't, because they can't get approved for a loan modification, or they're like, I don't really want to rent out rooms in my house. I can't get money from family members to pay off the arrears that I need to catch myself up. So eventually you kind of guide them through the process. Like, here, I'm going to help you keep the property, but worst case, we'll just go ahead, we'll buy it. Right. And that's kind of how we are so successful with it, because we don't approach them like they need us, because they don't want to talk to us at the end of the day. So that's a big another thing too for pre-foreclosures. And then lastly, another big one, which is crazy, with all the deals that we do, approaching the 80, 90 deal mark, this for the end of December so far locked in. Each one of our wholesale deals, each one of our flips, we put a big bright yellow Bandit sign that says "I buy houses," and in black letters with a phone number, no logo, no anything, very ugly, right? We get calls all the time, and we'll probably do 5, 10, 15 deals just from that this year, just from Bandit signs. And putting them in the front yards is a benefit, especially if you have a good relationship with cash buyers, and also your own flips, because the city can't go and take it. You can put whatever sign you want in your yard. It's not sticking it on the corner of a stoplight that'll get taken in 2 days, right? So that's kind of how we approach that. And those pretty much are our big four that we do that gets us to that point in such a lean cost per month.
Nice, man. I love it. It's funny how every market is so unique in what actually works. Back when I was doing single family, I was doing it between 2014 and 2019. I was focused on single family, and I tried Bandit signs like nobody's business. I put some everywhere in here in Tacoma and Seattle. I got like maybe 2 calls. Some markets, I've heard that Bandit signs just crush it. Like, you're putting them out there, you get tons of calls. Some markets, it doesn't work at all. Some markets, and even SEO, you mentioned that really works in your area. Here in Tacoma, Seattle, it's a very competitive niche. And so it's very difficult to get a site ranked. But if you're in a county that doesn't have a lot of ranked websites, again, it's a lot easier to do. So, I think that's really interesting. When you guys think about marketing, if you do want to do wholesaling, look at the different methods of marketing and figure out which ones actually work. You mentioned pre-foreclosures, going to law offices. That's always going to work because people aren't willing to put in that effort.
Right.
And so, you really have
same with SEO too. So, yeah.
Well, let's talk about that actually. So you guys ranked your website, you got ranked probably in Sioux Falls and then the surrounding area. What did you guys do? Did you do blog pages? What did you do to rank the website?
No, great question. So basically with Google, as I've deep dived more, as I got my website ranked and done other people's websites as well, other real estate investors in our niche, basically the 2 ways you get your website ranked is the one way, and they come together, excuse me. Basically the ways that get ranked, it's got to come together, right? You got to start with your foundation before you obviously build the roof, right? And your foundation in SEO is going to be on page content, right? So it's going to be the relevancy for the Google SERP, and SERP, I mean search engine results page, right? So in Google, what their job is when you look up a keyword, they want to find the most relevant and credible website to rank at the top, right? So what that means is what you put on your page matters everything, right? It's building the foundation to set how your website can rank in that SERP, right? Now, excuse me. Now, with that, you have to have relevancy, right, to even have a chance of ranking. And you can't have credibility without relevancy, because it's like building a roof on top of a house with no foundation or anything there. Just simply won't work. You have to have relevancy first and putting everything on your page correctly, which is a lot of strategy, a lot of algorithm stuff, which I've done with a lot of other people, to get them ranked. Now we do that. Then you add credibility by doing backlinks and other things like that, right? Where basically a backlink is essentially if the New York Times wrote about GabeBuysHouses.com, right? They write an article and Google's like, okay, if the New York Times is linking to this guy, who the New York Times is very credible in Google's eyes, they're like, if he's linking to this guy, he must be pretty cool, right? Is the way I like to describe it. So then once you have your relevancy, it's going to help you out, but you add credibility on top of that, my man, you got a very good ranking. So that's kind of the very raw way to get a website ranked. Kind of in whatever market you're in. Obviously, some markets are more competitive than others. I know I have clients for SEO across the country that we've gotten ranked, and so each market can vary, but it all depends on your market because each keyword is different, right? So if I look up "sell my house fast Sioux Falls" versus "sell my house fast Seattle," it's a whole different ball game, right? And you have to just see what your competition's doing, and that's the best way to do it: is see what your competition's done, how many backlinks do they have, how many words do they have, very basic stats, and be like, just match that and maybe do a little bit better than them. And that's all you got to do with SEO, really. So
yeah, you just got to get on that first page.
Exactly.
So let's talk about dispo. You get your deals. That was how you got your deals. Let's talk about how you disposition them once you do have them under contract. You mentioned you guys do flips and wholesales. Starting with wholesales, what's the process you take to get those moved?
No, that's a great question. So luckily, being in such a niche area of maybe our metro market, probably 275,000 people, maybe 300,000, and so it's something where with such a smaller metro market like that, we have a lot more, I should say, connections and more access to people, right? And so it's one of those things where we honestly, we do a lot of deals every year for wholesale and flips, but our wholesales, we have a buyer's list of over 300. But we use mostly the same 5 guys for every deal, right? And I've noticed that, especially being in the local space, it's very easy to dispo a deal once you do get a good one. That's the easiest part, is dispoing a deal locally, right? And so basically what we'll do is we trust these guys so much and they trust us so much that we'll even most of the time bring them on, one of them, on an appointment, depending on what type of deal it is, because those 5 are each different. They like to buy different things. So we'll bring them on appointments with us, and kind of get their feedback. That way we can make a deal. And we're lucky to have that with the cash buyers that we have. But it definitely helps out quite a bit, especially in a market size like this, for buyers wanting to do that with you and work with you. So
yeah. And that's pretty much true in any market you go to. There's gonna be big players who will buy sometimes if you get them under contract at a certain price, they'll buy it sight unseen. And so if you can find those ones that are real players, they're out there to get a deal done. You can just do multiple deals with them. So you just mentioned you walk the property with your buyers sometime, which means that you guys are the ones out there doing the site visits. Are you personally going out there walking these properties? Is anything virtually done? How do you go about, once you have the property on a contract, how do you go about doing your DD?
No, great question. So my business partner, obviously, he handles all the dispo and managing the flips and everything like that. He's the one who goes on all the appointments, and kind of transacts each deal once we do have that motivated seller. So yes, our company is going out there, looking at each property, getting very personal with these people, meeting them, shaking their hand, and kind of doing the whole very, very local type wholesaling, right? Instead of more so that virtual. The only thing that we do virtual is sending DocuSign contracts. That's about the most virtual thing we do. So
cool. All right, before we move on, I do want to talk about the future for you. The next 2 to 3 years, what do you guys see for your company, and how do you want it to evolve?
Yeah, absolutely. No, great question. So basically with our business in Sioux Falls, right? It's a smaller metro area. It's something that we have dialed in our market and everything with our marketing sources for kind of where we want it to be. And we find it a little difficult if we were to replicate what we do here in somewhere else. So the question was, okay, do we scale this and try to get it in another market, try to get somebody boots on the ground, classic style like that? Or with the SEO information that we learned, do we take that and maybe do SEO for other real estate investors to scale that way? and just stay here as far as the real estate investing side. So next 2 to 3 years, we ended up deciding just because of scalability reasons to go that SEO route and do SEO for other real estate investors, as we do have a lot of connections across the country for other people that are the same as us, right? Just like yourself, Gabe. And so it's that's kind of our next step here in the next 2 to 3 years. Is we have roughly 3 handfuls of clients right now across the country: Oklahoma City, San Antonio, and bigger cities like that. So that's kind of our next step here in the next few years as we see it. So
Very cool.
yeah.
All right. I'm going to take that opportunity to push us into the quick question round. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it. It starts with education. It could be any form: books, movies, conferences, whatever. I need 2 recommendations, one for general life wisdom and then one for real estate.
Okay. Book Real Estate, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm sure you hear that quite a bit. But that's the book that I read that actually opened my eyes that you don't have to trade time for money. General wisdom, I think a great one is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I think doesn't really talk about general wisdom, but I think it's something that he really just talks about you can do more than what you think you can. And I think it's a big confidence booster. And it also sets you right as far as being able to push through a lot of adversity, because that's all we deal with in this industry. So
yeah, David Goggins, he's a character.
Crazy man.
Yeah.
Crazy guy.
All right. All right. Next question is for your younger self. If you could go back to the Dawson who was just getting started flipping those couches a couple of years ago, go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Yeah. I think it definitely just be confident. I think I had a big trouble of faking it till I make it when I was younger. And I think a lot of people have the same problem. And so it's something where if I just be confident, you don't have to necessarily fake that you know what you're talking about. Just be confident enough to, even if you have a deal with these people, maybe bring a JV partner with you and be like, man, I just be straight up. I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me out? And tell a cash buyer, like, they could take advantage of if they wanted to, but most don't, hopefully. But you could tell a cash buyer I don't even know how to price this. Can you come with this appointment to me or with me, because I don't even know what to offer this lady, right? They'd be happy. More times than not, those people are happy to go with you. So I would say, as far as a confidence basis, you don't necessarily have to fake what you're talking about, because people who are in this industry, like Gabe and myself, we can smell when somebody is full of what. So it's so I would just say that as far as advice.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And even maybe not even confidence is the word, but if you are genuine and and determined behind your intentions and just put yourself out there,
right?
Because whenever I think of like my younger self, telling my younger self to be confident, I probably would have made the wrong choices trying to emulate confidence. But if you're just genuine and you have your intention, you have your goal, and you just let people know what you're trying to do, you will get things done. It will feel weird, it will feel uncomfortable, but that's the price you have to pay to actually get real confidence, which only comes with success, with taking action, getting results. That's where you're actually going to feel confident. So that's really good advice. That moves us to the next question. And this is about finding deals. We've already kind of touched on this earlier, but what is your favorite way to generate leads and find new deals?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's organic SEO without a doubt. It just depends kind of where you're at in your business, right? If it was me as a beginner, if you were starting today, I would definitely say pre-foreclosures. It'd just be a matter of getting the data. And you got to put a lot of time and sweat equity into those type of deals. Yes, it is free, but it takes a lot more time, and more than what you'd get out of it, right? So that's what I'd recommend right away, is to start with pre-foreclosures if you're a beginner. Now, if you have the pre-foreclosures down, you have some marketing sources, you have the cold calling, you have other things like that. Organic SEO is without a doubt the best way to get inbound leads, in my opinion, just because of the cost per lead, right? You do pay per lead, you do the YouTube ads, the Facebook ads. You're shelling out multiple thousands per month on a normal rate to even hopefully get some leads, right? With organic SEO, I mean, for us, luckily, I'm able to do it myself to pay less than $100 a month. So it's pennies on the dollar to do probably $250,000 this year from the website alone. And so that's something I would say, something really to invest in. If you have everything figured out in your business, you want to take it upwards without having to spend so much money for inbound leads. I definitely think organic SEO, once you hit that stage, is the way to go.
Cool. All right. Next question is about lessons learned. Not every deal we get into goes the way we expect it. In fact, a lot of times things go sideways, but we get to learn a lesson in those opportunities. So what was the deal that went a little sideways for you? And then what was the lesson you pulled from it?
Yeah, actually, I mean, this is one that crazy enough was even though as we've been in it for a few years now, it has been was quite recently, a few months ago. It was a house that we ventured out into higher price ranges, right? So it's more of, I wouldn't say luxury, but mid luxury of a flip. And it's something where I think with that deal, I would just highly recommend for a lot of people is sometimes to stand your ground, right? As wholesalers and flippers, we want to help these sellers out. We want to do things right in good intentions to help them out to get a deal done as well in the long run. But sometimes when you have sellers who are asking you to move a mountain, sometimes you have to be like, no, you got to learn how to say no sometimes. And I think in this one, we just went too deep by saying yes to too many things, to be honest. And so it's a lesson that we learned a few months recently. So that's a fresh one. But yeah, I would definitely say no one to say no, simply.
Yeah. Yeah. You do have to have your boundaries in deals,
Yeah,
especially with price. And
right.
sometimes sellers, especially on the commercial side, they'll try to spin things
Yeah.
in a light that isn't always accurate. And so you just have
Hmm.
to understand your underwriting and stick to it. And don't,
Right.
it's a game of chicken. Sometimes you just got to stick
Right.
to your ground
And
and let things
yeah.
play out.
You got a lesson to learn too. And of course for us it was a great lesson because it's the first time we've ever dabbled into like those higher price ranges, right? So you got to learn somehow. But
There you go.
mhm.
All right, next question is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. This is a two-parter. Where can they find you, and then what can they expect when they reach out?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to my Instagram. It's spelled my first name, Dawson, Dawson, with an underscore Skor is my Instagram handle. Same with my YouTube channel as well as my TikTok are all the same. So if you reach out, I talk a lot about lead generation and SEO specifically on my social media, but all things pretty much getting motivated sellers for the cheapest. That's kind of the way we like to play the game. Is because this game is a marketing and sales game essentially of that. It's getting the most motivated sellers for the cheapest. That's the game. And so with us, that's what we talk about on our social medias. And if you guys reach out to me, I'd be happy to talk with you maybe about a better option for you. Maybe if you're struggling getting deals or you're spending too much money getting deals. Obviously, SEO is for a very niche kind of type of real estate investors. If you're a beginner, I don't recommend SEO right away. But once you get yourself established, SEO is a great tool. But if you're looking to maybe keep scaling upwards if you already have and don't want to spend so much money for inbound leads, SEO is definitely the way to go. So I'd be happy to talk with you about that as well.
All right, perfect. I will put those links in the show notes. So if you guys want to reach out, just click a little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description. In there, you can find Dawson's link. All right, man. That wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great.
Absolutely. For everybody who's with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions, reach out to me and Gabe at the realestateinvestingclub.com. If you guys want to support the show, just leave us a review. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.